Hi, my name's Lindy and welcome to this channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk and my email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. The title of this video this evening, that's the 27th of April, evening time UK, is How Projection alters trajection and direction. All rhymes, doesn't it? How projection alters trajection and direction. So, those of you that have been subscribed to my channel for some time will know that this channel is experiential, meaning all things talked about, shared in whatever way I am sharing them, whether that's in a channeled format, whether that's personally speaking format, whether it's a mixture of both. It's all been experienced personally and or professionally or both, and I've been working professionally for just under 20 years. So pretty much every person on the planet projects in some way, and what I mean projects is that they will have a reaction to something that to someone else may seem quite innocent and quite reasonable, but to that particular person, when they're projecting or being triggered by something, they will not just overact considerably, but their response, their emotional, hormonal, chemical response to that thing will be grossly out of proportion and quite unbalanced and quite unreasonable. The reason being that the massive overreaction has been caused by all the material underneath it that the person carries within them, within their background, sometimes within their life experience, sometimes within their personal experience, sometimes within their belief systems and programming, and their reaction, a reaction that you would get with somebody that didn't have that particular set of circumstances or life experiences or unbalance would be completely different. So pretty much everybody on planet Earth projects in some way, and throughout your journey of evolution you will evolve to, I'm not really going to say learn to project less, but there isn't so much material within you to project with. And it is a question of almost if and when that does happen, you then notice it very quickly and you notice where it came from. So you will notice where there has been a similar set of circumstances many years before, or you will notice when you've revisited a particular subject before, etc., etc. So you will almost be conscious of those unconscious patterns. And if you are one of those people, I mean, that's a great sign when you do become conscious of those unconscious patterns. It means that you are evolving on that spiral of evolution and still expanding in your consciousness and going upwards because you're noticing these things. Now, when I said pretty much every human on the planet has stuff projected at them on a daily basis, or projects on others on a daily basis, that varies as according to how self-aware and how conscious each individual, shall we say, is. Now, what I have found is, quite frankly, the more conscious you become, the more people project in your direction. There's an irony to it. Why? Because the bigger and brighter that lighthouse and light, the darker and deeper the shadow it throws up in those that are projecting at you. And in the early years of my journey into becoming more conscious and into the heart, I didn't realise it would be that way. And in fact, you know, it's quite laughable. I don't think anybody does when they start on that journey. They don't, a lot of the things that happen you don't realise are going to happen. But in fact, the more conscious you become, the more that you work with or are around or are in association with or are friends with or members of family that are largely unconscious, the more material gets projected in your direction. Now, it isn't an entirely comfortable experience, and I'm sure there are other people such as myself out there that have worked in an industry of caring for people, supporting people, helping them through processes, whether it's in a healing capacity, therapeutically, you know, all the ways that we do, that will totally back me up on this and say that actually the more they've done work on themselves and the more conscious they have become, the more they get clients that fire all of that kind of unresolved material in their direction. And it isn't just, you could look at this on multiple different levels. You could look at it at a linear level, a psychology level, etc. And of course those levels are all there. But you could also look at it at an energy level as to why that happens, why somebody or people think, metaphorically speaking, that they can take a great big dump on your head, on your energy field, that they can attack you personally, professionally, business-wise, and then steal from you, all of which has happened to me in the last 10 days, by the way. And why that would be supposed to be acceptable. And the answer to that, well, I'm going to give you the answer to that. It is an automatic response from people in general to continuously look outward and react emotionally, trigger emotionally to things, rather than look inwards and say, hold on a minute, why am I behaving in that appalling way? Why am I doing this? Why am I effectively harassing someone, bombarding someone completely out of left field? Why am I doing this? They tend to not even think about that, but just have a surge of rage, anger. Their unbalanced emotions all being hurled in the direction of the person, the more conscious person. And I don't mean that in a judgmental sense, I mean that in an energy sense, in a perceptual sense, that they are connected with in their family, that they are working with, that they have met, that they have interacted with. So one reason is it's because, like a little tsunami of emotion, an eruption of emotion. But if I go beyond that, so the average person will react like this. They may react like this 20 times a day, 30 times a day, 50 times a day. They may have a much bigger reaction with a conscious person than an unconscious one, because a conscious person triggers the pain body so much more. Why? Again, the brighter the light, the bigger the shadow. You know, the more the person is imbalanced, the more it shows up the imbalance in another. And the imbalance in another will either react like this to that, or it will attempt to stabilize the energy of the person, or people will attempt to stabilize to meet that. But in the meantime, they don't have a logical clue that that's going on. They just take a mighty great dump all over you. And that's exactly what it's like energetically, a mighty great dump. So if we go back even beyond that and go up to the other levels of energy, as human beings, we are quite complex. And we tend to think and feel that it's all about our thoughts and feelings, it's all about our emotions, it's all about our view of the world, it's all about our world, our micro and macro world, it's all about us. And we don't tend to even entertain the idea that there are sometimes larger energies around us that affect all of the things I'm listing. Some of those energies quite malevolent energies, some of those energies not malevolent at all, some absolutely benevolent and wonderful energies. All kinds of energies, all kinds of consciousness out there, like I say, lighter consciousness, more darker consciousness, something in the middle consciousness, all different wave bands, frequencies, etc., that according to where one's mental state and projections are, those projections and mental state can inadvertently loop into. This includes archetypal consciousness out there, big archetypes of consciousness. Now, I refer to big archetypes of consciousness, or people looping into bigger energies around them or behind them. I call that the cloud. Just because I like to simplify things, and I see that clairvoyantly as clouds. And what can happen is when somebody that has quite a lot of imbalance within them going on, for whatever reason, could be medical reasons, could be history of it in the family, could be a temporary thing, could be a long-term thing, etc. When somebody is going through something or has within their personality quite an unbalance going on there of a personality, when they project, often they have looped into a cloud or the clouds around them, either archetypal clouds or clouds of a similar frequency. And all of the cloud of the similar frequency, or the similar theme, or the similar mental state, and the similar kind of energy makes a synapse again, a circuit, a loop, links together, and all that gets hurled as well. So a simple way of explaining this is a narcissist personality linking with the narcissist cloud of consciousness, that frequency and wave band, and sometimes it stops at that and it's just amplified what was the personality characteristics of that person, or what was supposed to, what they've looped with. Sometimes there's an energy even behind that, and you know, some of them are disruptor energies. I've talked about them at length on my YouTube channel over the years. Sometimes there are other energies, terrestrial and non-terrestrial energies behind it, behind the cloud, so to speak. It goes back and back and back. And what can happen if you have the average, let's say the average human being going through projecting stuff, you don't have this happen. But sometimes if you have a human being that has slightly destabilized or extremely destabilized, Then they've looped to the archetype, the cloud, that has a similar energy in it. Or they've not only looped to that, but what's behind it, there is an energy whack that goes with that as well. So the person is not just projecting their emotional garbage, but they are also projecting stuff through the cloud and stuff from the energy behind the cloud that's running it. Malevolent or benevolent. So in the particular example I was using, a personal example there, I had to deal with the personality characteristics of an individual actually being stolen from by that individual. I then had to deal with the archetypal cloud the individual was immersed with and the energy behind that, which actually physically, psychically, and emotionally attacked just before the Easter weekend. Now, that of course was highly unpleasant, and the person involved, they are blacklisted. And the reason I'm using this as an example really is to say that as I've gone along my journey, as your consciousness raises, you often see a bigger picture that you don't see before that happens. And you can have an emotional response, and you can be angry and hurt and very disappointed. But then after a while, after that settles down, you go beyond that and you can see the bigger picture around it. And that is no excuse for the behaviour that you've been on the receiving end of, any more than it would be an excuse for the behaviour of someone that's a stalker. There's no excuse for it. And you can understand these things, and you can see and understand that the energies around them, but it still doesn't mean to say it's acceptable. So what I'm trying to say here is sometimes there's a bigger picture behind projection. And although projection is a natural part of the human process, as your consciousness raises, you recognise when it's being done to you, and you recognise if or when you're doing it to somebody else, and you're able to get onto that quite quickly. And again, if this happens to you, you're able to look and see, are you looping anywhere, or is that reminding you of something else in your life or another pattern? The person that's projecting to you, really, I'm going to say to you, you can't make someone see what they're not able to see. They have to see these things for themselves. Some people will never see it, and others will see these things as their own consciousness raises, and as changes happen within them, they will be able to see those things then. But at that point, when it's a knee-jerk emotional burst of, I'm going to make you responsible for all the shit in my entire life, you're not going to be able to make them see it. Now, it's been an interesting thing for me, because every week that passes, my perception changes, and I am able to see different things that I couldn't see the week before, and there's so much more I'd like to talk about, but that will be for another video, not for this video. And maybe tomorrow, might bring one out tomorrow, we'll see how it goes. But this particular thing has been a real kind of eye-opener as to exactly how these energies work. They really make that link through your emotional response to the attack upon you. And yes, everybody that is a human on this planet has an emotional response to attack upon them, some kind of attack upon them. whether it's emotional, physical, energy, or the whole lot. Everybody has a response to that. It's called being human. But we're almost like, if you are in that situation, almost like called to acknowledge that, not suppress that, but actually have a look at what's happening around there. And if you have to put boundaries in place, you put boundaries in place. If you have to take steps to take measures and put things in motion, you take steps and you take measures and put things in motion. But it's also recognizing these energetic patterns and how they are there and how they run and the bigger picture behind it. You can't control somebody else's perception or make them see the way that they have behaved is appalling. All you can do is have an element of responsibility for your response to it. You can only have some, and even that, you know, you notice I avoided the word saying you can have an element of control over your own response, because normal human beings, if someone punches them in the face, they're going to react one of two ways. They're either going to take that punch in the face and be shocked and lay down and not get up, or they're going to punch somebody in the face back, or they're going to, the third option, almost like negotiate and navigate somewhere in that middle ground there. You know, it's still not acceptable being punched in the face, but people deal with it differently. At this time on planet Earth, that sort of projection is through the roof. I mean, plenty of people, metaphorically speaking, are going off their heads at the moment. They're triggering left, right and centre. They're hurling generations of ancestral stuff and their own emotional, undealt with stuff at their nearest and dearest, or anyone that will take it. And they are particularly hurling it at anyone that's anywhere on a journey to becoming conscious, because those finer tuned frequencies stimulate and aggravate, in a way, the unconscious matter, the fecal matter within other people that have that to process through. Now, we have a few choices here, ladies and gentlemen. And those choices are, you know, where human beings going through this process. Does one just hide themselves away, put a bag over their head or a blanket over their head and hide away like a recluse and not interact with many people because of that kind of thing? Or does one, let's say, man up, soldier on, and accept that there are going to be behaviours like that personally, professionally, in your family, in friendships, that aren't acceptable, and that you have a choice if and when those things come up. You lay down boundaries, you can step away, you can step back, or you can actually say, no, you know, I'm not there, that's not correct, and I'm stepping out of this. It's an interesting thing, and it's something that's going to be affecting every single person watching this video, because I'm assuming most of the people that watch my videos are human. Perhaps not all of them, but most. So you're all going to be affected if you haven't been already. And certainly for me, it highlighted a few things about what I would consider acceptable and what I won't consider acceptable. And I have had to learn the hard way about putting down very strong boundaries with people, being a very caring person, being someone of the heart, being very empathic and transparent, takes a great deal of courage. It takes a massive amount of courage to come up and do it in front of the world on YouTube. It also means that anyone with those kind of characteristics has to make a decision to put firm boundaries in place to say, you no more, you know, you go so far and that's it, no more. That particular kind of behavior, let me make this categorically clear, I will not accept personally, professionally, humanly, or any other way. So there's a big line been drawn in the sand for me at the decision of, do I allow 1 or 2 rotten apples in a glorious, beautiful orchard sour the 20 years work that I have done and continue to do? Or do I say, c'est la vie, let's move onwards and upwards? And I think the fact that I've brought this video out answers that. I prefer to focus on the orchard than 1 or 2 rotten apples. So on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. And the title of the video, How Projection Alters Your Trajection and Direction, is if you are someone personally caught up in continuously projecting at other people, it does alter your trajectory, it does alter your outcome, and it also alters your reality around you. It alters your timeline. If you are someone that is on the receiving end in your regular life of masses of negative projection, if you're spending your life almost in survival, protecting yourself from that, that also alters your timeline, your trajection, and your direction. In which case, again, changes have to be made. You have to be conscious and aware of this to notice it's happening. To notice your life as becoming smaller and smaller, confined within that, either the person doing it, the projector, or those that is on the receiving end of it. So projection alters trajection, alters direction, also alters perception, and your perception alters your trajection, direction, and projection. And your perception is altered by becoming more conscious, by dealing with your own shit, rather than hurling it at everyone else. On that note, I'll love you and leave you. See you again in a few days. I've got a shed load of things to talk about, but as this is an experiential channel, I felt I needed to talk about this one first. Take care, guys. Bye.